Welcome to Sports Scope, the most influential sports talk show in the nation.
What is today, the 19th?
Stay tuned for updates and great sports content.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Real Sports Scope. I'm your host, Robert Butler, on this 20th day. I don't know what's happened to the month of November. I tell you, it goes by quick. Once you get into football season, that's what's in my background there. Once you get into football season, time goes by in warp speed, folks. I mean, Thanksgiving will be next week and whatnot. I don't know what happens, but hey, listen, we got a great show for you tonight. Got a couple good guests here coming in. My neighbor Roy, my neighbor Roy and his cousin Ed are going to come in and talk a little bit of Steelers, Ravens, get us a little bit of background. These two gentlemen, Roy's been a great supporter of the program, myself and whatnot. I'm very thankful, and I told him I'd have him on the program. We'll talk and, catch up here and do all that good stuff. So tune in. They'll be here 30 minutes past the hour. Plus, I got a few takes. Hey, I almost nailed Tennessee, Georgia, by the way. I was off by one touchdown, folks, but I had Tennessee score there. But listen, they're not too far off, and I'll talk about that and comment a little bit on the playoff standings of where they are right now, and also the Jets owner, Woody Johnson. Man, you want to get this guy distracted if you're a Jets fan. Here, as the story came out from the Athletic about him today and whatnot. So, but anyways. Stand by. Let's take our first and only break. I'll be back here momentarily. We'll hit the ground running here on the Real Sports Scope. Hello, Sports Scope followers. The program has seen tremendous growth since going 5 days a week. I just wanted to thank everybody for your cash contributions and sharing the program with friends and families. Just a reminder, if you want to contribute to the program, go to the Cash App, the cash sign, and Sports Scope. There are other ways to contribute to the program listed at the bottom of the screen. If you want to advertise on the program, go to sports, that is sports with an S, another S, scope, SKOPE, at gmail.com, just like it's listed at the bottom of the screen. Thank you and enjoy the program.
I'm Mac, CEO of National Streaming Sports and host of the Mac and Jack Sports Show. You're watching the sharp-dressed man and the big story breaker, Robert Butler, on Sports Scope, Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern on National Streaming Sports.
Introducing National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk programming that you can access 24/7. For the premier sports talk experience, tap into our Roku channel. Start your mornings with Mac and Jack covering all the weekend sports action. Then pour a cup and enjoy all the sports you can drink on the Coffee and Sports podcast. At midday, talk sports from east to west on the Coast to Coast podcast. Followed at night by some hot girl talk with Prim and Proper Sports featuring Sonia Pearson. Talk boxing on the Gloved Fist. Yankee fans tune in for Start Spreading the News. And there's more on the College Sports Huddle and Sports Scope with Robert Butler. There are 20 podcasts in all and 70 weekly shows, giving us a 3.4-star viewer rating. To find us on Roku TV, search for National Streaming Sports on the Roku search bar. Click on the logo and you're in. National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk for America.
All righty then. We're back here from those announcements. Hey, also want to remind everybody, John Restano will be back on the program. John lives out in the Niagara Falls area, Buffalo, New York area, but he's a big Bears fan. And I always like to get the update on what he thinks about what's the local buzz about this Bills team. Had a big win over the Kansas City Chiefs over the weekend. And also I was going to ask him about the what does he think about the Bears? Who should replace Matt Eberflus? Does he got a guy in mind? And, of course, he's a big Ohio State fan as well. We'll go over the college playoff with him. Big game this weekend against undefeated Indiana. So 30 minutes tomorrow past the program. John Restano, always really good, will be on. And next Tuesday, the author of this book, look how big this book is, folks. This thing looks like a Encyclopedia Britannica, doesn't it? Mike Richmond, I've got Mike's book in here. It's the George Allen of Football Life, forward by Dick Vermeil. He will be on Tuesday. So got a lot of stuff coming on. And hopefully, by the way, reminded back to Friday, I haven't talked to Carlos, but I believe he'll be back on Friday. And we'll have the Mad New Yorker back on the program as well. A lot of people love coming on SportsScope, and I'm very thankful for it, okay? All right. Now, getting all that out of the way, you know I'm the producer, writer, and everything on this program. I have to do all this stuff on my own. That's why I feel like I'm going stir crazy sometimes, but I'm having a good time doing so, okay? All right. Now, listen, there was a story out. Long story. A lot of buzz about what happened yesterday with the New York Jets. The Jets owner, Woody Johnson, he had fired the general manager. We talked about that yesterday, Joe Douglas, on the program here. And I talked about the hits and misses with Douglas, and not to mention the fact, I think I did actually mention this, but I only touched on it, the Hassan Reddick. May have not mentioned this, but the media kind of gets a narrative, the sports media, the national folks, and they stay with one narrative and they don't give the whole story. Here, you get the whole story. You just don't get narrative talk here. And what I'm saying is, if also there was another big mistake there by Douglas. It was not being able to get Hassan Reddick. Remember, Hassan Reddick was traded from the Eagles back in the offseason. And he wanted to get away from Philadelphia because they didn't want to extend him in the last year of his contract. They make a deal, bring him over. The guy never shows up to minicamp, training camp, because they never had a deal in place, in some kind of extension in principle done with his agent there. And he just hung there. He missed minicamp, training camp, 6-7 games into the regular season. And now he's not in football shape. That was all, and they didn't have a pass rush. They had a pass rush issue. They needed that depth. They actually were doing pretty good under Saleh, but still they needed that depth. That was another thing that came down on Joe Douglas. You know, they failed to mention that. Now I will say this: was he pushing for that? Was he the one? He being Woody Johnson, the owner of the Jets, was he the guy? That was because Diana Rossini saying, using the words like "gone rogue" and stuff like that in this athletic story here, okay? But the big take of this came out, the big fuss about this came out, this particular article about Woody Johnson, was he wanted to bench Aaron Rodgers after the loss to the Broncos. Now, I told you they had beat the Broncos twice in Denver. And they're supposed to have a much, much better team now. And, of course, we know what happened. I really pounded the Jets for this because they were at home in New York. I know it was a bad, windy day and all that crap. But you're the better team. You have the veteran Hall of Fame quarterback there. You're at home. You have a running back that's been running through that defense like a hot knife through butter, but it looks like Sean Payton's tightened up a lot of that with this coaching staff, except for against a Baltimore Raven team that destroyed Denver a few weeks later. But all that being said, Woody Johnson, he wanted Saleh to bench Rodgers after that game, but that would have Saleh and Joe Douglas, they talked the owner down from that idea, saying it will split the locker room like nobody's business. Woody Johnson wanted to play backup Tyrod Taylor at the time. Okay. So he butted heads with Saleh and Joe Douglas on that. Joe Douglas, by the way, was on the last year of his contract. And now we know what happened. So that was the big issue there. Now there was some, it talks about he was stripped down of power since January. The assistant general manager was fired as well. Here's my take on all this. I mentioned the fact that I wasn't a big fan of Woody Johnson by looking at the way this team has played. I want to say, was it 14 years? They haven't been in the playoffs in several years. You almost get a sense they kind of lucked their way into those AFC championship runs there under Rex Ryan back in, was it 2009, 2010? Then after that, this team totally started falling apart like nobody's business. And, of course, he moved off Rex Ryan. And I've talked about Bill Belichick not really caring for Woody Johnson 25 years ago. You know, he says, I'm not going to play for this guy no matter what. And then here just a few months ago, maybe about 6 weeks ago, on the Manning cast, I played the cut where Bill Belichick says that Woody Johnson is this. I think it was after Robert Saleh being fired. His style is ready, fire, aim instead of ready, aim, fire. He's very impulsive and wants to jump to conclusions about everything. That was Belichick now versus 25 years ago. His opinions has not changed, even though he's out of a job. So he made it be clear, if that's the only job available, I don't want a job in NFL, according to Bill Belichick. I got to trust his judgment on that. Now, if you are a Jets fan, there is a glimmer of hope. For number one, you have a pretty good draft pick coming up. I want to say they're like 11th. You want to get it better if you're a Jets fan. Let me go ahead and double check here on your draft pick, because I've got the top. Get this thing messing up here on me. Either way, don't want to waste a lot of time on this. Either way, the Jets are 7. Excuse me. They're 7. They're 3-8 right now. They picked 7th in the draft. So you got that, and you won't. We know that Woody Johnson has taken an ambassador job of the UK with the former president, Trump 45. Now Trump is president number 47. Maybe he'll take another ambassador job. And like James Dolan, I remember Colin Cowherd talked about this. The Knicks have been on the up and up because James Dolan's letting the general manager and the coaching staff do their job. He pointed out the fact that James Dolan, the owner of the Knicks, had been working on this immaculate spear out in Las Vegas. That he had been working on this thing in Las Vegas. He had been distracted, not meddling. And we know the Knicks have been playing really well, going, the semifinals and stuff. And they look like a competitive team again. It looks like the 90s, the Knicks. I'm excited for the Knicks. Hopefully, he'll get another ambassador job with the incoming president. He'll hire a general manager from a great organization like a Ravens, like a Steelers, maybe a Green Bay, somebody like that, and maybe he'll get a good offensive-minded head coach with the good staff around him. They'll land him a quarterback. They're done. After this has gotten out, to side with the owner to a certain extent, they got a little crazy with the Aaron Rodgers stuff, right? They brought in Nat Hackett, who was fired. He was dreadful as a head coach with Denver, and he was Rodgers' offensive coordinator. He was dreadful with the Jets. Okay, they brought in who was it? We brought in Devontae Adams. You brought in Randall Cobb. I totally forgot about the fact that they brought in Randall Cobb. So you brought in everybody except for David Bakhtiari. So it's what does Rodgers want per se, and you cannot give in. This is not the NBA, and it doesn't work for LeBron in the NBA. You can't give in to a player like that. Alan Lazard, his other guy, I was trying to think of. So you start going in like that, and you got a 3-8 football team and a team that's totally disenfranchised. Now, if that was Douglas or was that Woody Johnson, I got a feeling that was Douglas. And this is why Woody Johnson wanted to do what he wanted to do. So there's going to be a big dead cap. But listen, I mentioned this yesterday on the program. Denver has a huge dead cap right now, and they're in the playoffs. because of the Russell Wilson issue. So things can happen once you get the coach and quarterback right. So they're going to be in the market for, and hopefully in air quotes, that they actually go out and draft a quarterback. Maybe they land the right coordinator and pair him with the say they do drop down to about 11th or something like that, and they get a Jalen Monroe out of an Alabama. Just saying, just food for thought. Okay, get a little tight on time. That's my take on here. I don't know who this was that just sent me this thing here. Hold on for a second here, folks. Let me stand by here. My guest is calling me. We'll go to a quick commercial break, and I'll be back here.
National Streaming Sports is brought to you in part by BetUs.com, designed for true fans. NFL odds, Week 1 and futures, college football odds, including Heisman Trophy favorites and playoff odds, NBA odds of division winners and playoffs, Major League Baseball playoff and World Series odds, the National Hockey League Conference playoffs and Stanley Cup odds, and boxing wagers. Betting opportunities include versus the spreads and outright winners, also during the game. Use our link on our website, nessp.info, the Bet Us Opportunities webpage, for a 125% bonus on your first 3 deposits. Must be 21 years old, and remember, bet responsibly. National Streaming Sports is brought to you in part by...
All right, I'm back here. Roy, I had a little technical issue there. We got it squared away. Okay, so that's it in a nutshell. But like I said, all right, let's do a recap real quick. All right, get your general manager, Woody Johnson. Get you an offensive-minded head coach with a good staff around him. If you want to go young with the Bobby Slowick out of Houston, get you a veteran defensive staff around him, somebody he can depend on, the way Sean McVay did with Wade Phillips when he first took the Rams job, and get a general manager, preferably somebody that's assisted at Baltimore, Pittsburgh, or Green Bay. A couple successful organizations there. Maybe look at another one of the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't know. Maybe one of Brad Holmes' assistants up here in Detroit. They're playing really good. And you hope that he takes the ambassador job that maybe the President Trump will offer him. And then he does this thing. And then the Jets possibly in the next 3 to 4 years can get back on track. Just saying. Okay? They've got some pieces here. Fashanu, left tackle. They got some defensive pieces. It's not the end of the world. Okay? Okay, listen, switching gears to the college game, folks, the Tennessee Vols. Now, listen, I told you I'm out of Nashville. I talked to a lot of the Vol fans. I've had Coach Kevin Carroll on the program. He wears his Vols hat. All that being said, if you watch Friday's program, I pick Georgia. Listen, I'm not a fanboy. I'm a balls and strikes guy. I call it right down the line here, right down the middle. The Vols here, I said this would be a 24-17 Georgia win. It was 31-17. I nailed the score for Tennessee. I was off by 1 touchdown for Georgia. I almost nailed this thing rock solid to the exact score here. Tennessee is still a little thin. That's been my only criticism coming in from the preseason, folks. They looked a lot better in spots than I forecasted them to look. Sound like a weather guy, right? Forecasted them to look, but like I said, they were pretty good. I did say this team is a little thin on defense. They look like they need to beef up a little bit, and that's what happened. They look like a small, fast team against a giant offensive line in Georgia. And Carson Beck, who's looked dreadful most of the year at times, even in big games they won, no sacks, no interceptions, that pocket you could eat off of. It was very disappointing if you're a Tennessee fan, okay? They're going to have to, and I do believe they can do it. Tim Banks has done a fantastic job from the defensive side. I was watching the end of game day today. All the game day guys, they all went Georgia. I want to say they all went Georgia. Maybe one guy didn't go Georgia. I think one of the guys that was not on the panel. I think they all went Georgia. They just all picked against the spread. The spread was 9.5. I didn't hit the spread right, but I was pretty close to that score. It's 31-17 versus 24-17. I was pretty close. But they're going to have to beef that up. I do think the way this team is doing well at quarterback right now, you got Nico. You got this guy coming in after Nico. Nico's going to be he's going to be able to play one more year. He's only a sophomore this year. Believe it or not, he's a second-year player. And by the way, Tennessee's still in this thing. They're down to 11th in the college playoff, and Indiana. And I'm going to talk about John Restano about this tomorrow. Indiana will play Ohio State this evening or Saturday. Excuse me. They've been playing 11 o'clock every day Eastern, 11 o'clock Central, 12 o'clock Eastern, and the AD don't like that, but I do it as a college fan. I love that. I'll probably be driving Uber that morning, but I'll record the game and watch it. I think they'll probably cover that score. But my point is, Indiana's going to fall out. They're going to fall out of that 12. A team like Tennessee will move up. They will move up in that playoff, and they'll win out. I believe they'll beat UTEP, Texas, El Paso, and then at the end they will beat a Vanderbilt team here in Nashville. That's a pretty good win. If they put it off, I think they will. Remember Vanderbilt, they played Texas down to a one-score game. They beat Alabama, who beat Georgia. So I don't know why things happen the way they do, but I'm saying all that a guy like with Josh Heupel bringing in the players he is, with the Tim Banks, if he can keep Tim Banks, who wasn't the most popular guy at the beginning, but this team's been led by their defense most of the season. Their defense has carried their rear end. I do think that they will, unlike the past, over the past 4 or 5 years, they will be able to attract a 5-star defensive tackle like they have not in the last several years. I do think that they will this time. They're going to have to get that pressure, those bigger players up front, and being able to penetrate a offensive line like a Georgia. Other than that, I do feel like they're closing the gap here. There was one fumble there. There was 5 sacks there. There was a lot of plays left on the field for Tennessee. They do look like they stand on the same field as Georgia. Last year, this was a 38-10 game in Knoxville. A couple years ago, I know it was a 2-score game. I did not feel like that Tennessee team was close like this Tennessee team was against Georgia. That Tennessee team was down pretty much the whole game. I didn't have any faith in a Tennessee team beating that Georgia team. This year, remember, Tennessee was up 10-0 at one point. This was a tied game at halftime, okay? And then Georgia pulled away in the second half with those other 2 touchdowns. That gap is being closed, and Kirby Smart knows it. He knows that gap is being closed. So I'm not saying it's a moral victory, but, hey, I predicted it. This team is still in it. By the way, Texas in the SEC, they still have to play at A&M. Not this weekend, I want to say, but next weekend. It's hard for me to believe because it's not been real cold here in Nashville that it's Thanksgiving next week, which is going to be kind of a wild week here. There's not going to be many shows on next week, but the big one's going to be on Tuesday and, of course, Friday's program with the Mad New Yorker. But I'll air some of my greatest hits next week as well. So make sure and tune in. You may have missed something. But anyways, listen, another take about last week. I just mentioned the reason why I think the Florida will keep Billy Napier is this what's his name? Legway, this quarterback here for Georgia or from Florida. This guy, he has just beat they just beat LSU last week. an LSU team that's, I think the fans are kind of they're a little irritated right now with Brian Kelly. I know he beat Alabama a few years ago. He's had some moments. They got in the SEC championship game, but he's got to do something about that defense. But that was a big win there for DJ Legway for Florida. Really big play there. And also, as far as the college game, I was also watching about the first quarter. I know what happened. I know Colorado beat Utah, but my point about that is other than that first pass, another good game, solid game for Shooter Sanders. 7, what they said, they're over bowl eligible 7-2 now. I want to say that this Colorado team that's now ranked. Remember, they got 3-4 wins last year, beating a Utah team that I picked the Big 12. They just got too many injuries. Beat that Utah team there. Some folks are floating this idea that maybe Schroeder Sanders, maybe Dallas Cowboys can tank and the Cowboys get a 2-for-1. They find a way to move up and move up or finagle their way with Deion Sanders to get Schroeder Sanders to the Cowboys, and also Jerry Jones go after Dad, who's shown to be a pretty good coach here. Go after Dad Deion, get the 2-for-1 there. Okay, that would be exciting. I mean, you get the former Cowboy. You get prime time. You get the prime time owner there and Jerry Jones. It would be the circus that Jerry would love to have. You get Deion and his son to the Dallas Cowboys. A year ago, I thought that was crazy. Of course, now they would have to find a way to move Dak Prescott and all that dead money. That's been speculated. We'll have to let that thing play out. We'll have to let Dallas play out and see how they're going to end the season and see what college jobs that come available for Deion. I do not think that Deion Sanders will take a. I do not think he's going to take a pro job without looking at the college jobs. He said himself he does not want to deal with these pro athletes and their needs and whatnot. But that was at the beginning. This is before that everything had taken off. This is before everything had taken off as far as the NIL is concerned for the college game. So that's a story to monitor, the Deion Sanders NFL story or rumors and speculation per se. Yesterday I talked about one of the favorite games of the week was the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Baltimore Ravens. I've got a Steeler fan and a Raven fan backstage here. My neighbors here, and I make sure and give these guys the proper intro here. Roy's been my neighbor for years in this complex. It's like a family, like we are family here. I know my neighbors on both sides. I know the guys across the parking lot. I've been here 9 years. This great guy here has always been supportive of the program. He's seen back in my old car. I had the magnets on my car with the sports scope on there. And Roy's even talked about possibly getting me an agent through his job because he works in one of the parking garages downtown. CAA said, well, this guy needs some more followers. We got to get him up. But I really appreciate it. And his cousin Ed is with him, and Ed's a big Baltimore Ravens fan. Both these guys are out of the Chicago area. So let's bring them on and have a big round of applause. What's up, guys? Hey, I like that background, man. Look at you guys. Y'all looking good. Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Roy? Oh, looks like you muted your camera. Unmute your microphone, guys. Your microphone's muted. The mic is muted, guys. You got to unmute your mic here. Well, we didn't do a sound test. I thought that it would work. Can you hear me, guys?
Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you now. Yeah, thank you, Ed. Appreciate you. So you guys are both from Chicago area, right? Can you hear me, man? Well, we'll have to go back here and go to a commercial. Can you hear me, Roy? Okay, they're going to try to come back on. They're having some technical difficulties. Looked like it was coming in fine. But anyways, the funny thing, like I said, these guys from Chicago. Funny thing about it is my other neighbor, Ryan, who lives downstairs. Roy lives across the parking lot here. And Ryan is also from Chicago. Man, these guys don't like that cold weather, And, you guys know I've mentioned this on this program before here. I've thought about moving to Clearwater, Tampa area because I don't even like the Nashville cold weather, even though we've had pretty mild fall so far. And I love it, by the way. I meet a lot of people from Chicago, New York area doing Uber. Some people, they love visiting here from British Columbia, Canada. They don't like the cold weather either. But anyways, I tell you what, folks come down here. The cost of living's good. The weather's pretty good. I didn't like the snow. Like I said a few years ago, I think I told you all this a few years ago, back in 2021, I think. There was a lady that worked at one of my buildings. Her and her husband just moved in. Okay, looks like the guys are trying to come back in. Let's see if we can bring them back on the program. Can you? The crowd loves you, man.
Yeah, hey, there you go. How you doing?
Good, man? Good. Hey, what jersey you wearing there, Chief?
This is Palomalu, number 43.
Oh, man, I was just talking college ball. Boy, he was great in college. He was even better in the NFL, former Defensive Player of the Year. I was just asking you all, you guys are from Chicago, Roy, so you go back pretty far. Being you pretty close age, you're probably a few years older than me. You remember the 85 Bears. You're a Chicago native. Why do you like the Steelers over the Bears?
Well, the Steelers was a favorite of mine since 1979.
Okay.
When we had the Mean Joe Green and Terry Bradshaw, John Stallworth. It was an epic team that was put together at that time. So they were doing great catches, great running, great quarterbacking. And the rivalries with the Cowboys and then the Houston Oilers gave us
the immaculate reception, that game?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
That's before my time, but I'm a football historian, brother.
Yes, sir.
Oh, man.
So that gave me my input to football from then on, and I just kept following.
Okay. Now, did your dad like the Steelers?
No. He was more like a Chicago White Sox fan.
He didn't really follow. Okay. So you didn't follow the great Walter Payton in the late 70s?
Yes. So the Bears was the original. And then when I seen the colors and those immaculate catches and the steel curtain, that bought me as a kid. So I've been following ever since.
Right. It's real nostalgia. When I was a kid growing up here in Nashville, although I've lived in New York and everywhere else, the Dallas Cowboys were on every single week. And I love the Cowboys because the nostalgia of the 92 Cowboys. They won the Super Bowl. Then they won it again. They had the Michael Irvin, Jimmy Johnson, big personality. So you kind of get that. You used to that winning flavor as a kid, and you get kind of grow to that team. So I get where you're coming from.
Yes, and that's exactly what it was, man.
Man, okay. Now, this is your cousin, Ed. Now, that's a funny thing. You guys are a big rival. I've talked to you guys out in the parking lot. You're a Ravens fan, but you're also a Chicago native. Now, what is your story there, Ed, for the audience?
So, I love the Bears because it's my hometown, but it's hard going for them with the front office problem. So, since the Ravens defense was so good, I was little and I played safety like when I started playing AAU football. So, that Ed Reed was my favorite safety. So, that brought me in with the Ravens.
So, did you tell me you're 25, right?
Yep.
So, you're going back. You like the Ed Reed We're talking 2012, 2013,
Like when we won it for Ray Lewis, like the year after he retired.
right after he retired.
Had Terrell Suggs, Kerry
Yeah.
Williams, Ellerby, the linebackers. Yeah, that team.
Oh, man. See, that's the thing, folks. I mean, that people go with the winner. People go with somebody that they can relate to. So you played safety and you wanted to emulate Ed Reed.
For sure.
Man.
Oh, yeah. That's nice.
Did you
Yes.
Did you ever score a touchdown as a like a pick six?
What's crazy, recently I was just playing in a flag football league and I got a interception return. Probably like 2 years ago. Or a year and a half maybe.
One of my favorite players, my dad and myself, I mean, we played fantasy big time.
Yeah.
And the thing between us, we would always talk about taking that Raven defense. We're going back 20 years to when Ray Lewis was in his prime. That defense started then just before a few years later. Then you had Ed Reed get drafted. And they stay consistent year in and year out. You can ask those Patriot players. You can ask all those Steeler teams and whatnot. They're the most consistent week in and week out team. And that was the era of the safety. You've got the Polamalu jersey on, Roy, and then you got Ed Reed. Those are two of the greatest safeties of all time, and they played each other twice a year. I mean, that's usually not a glamorous position. I mean, you got guys like Ronnie Lott going back to the 80s and whatnot. You've had Steve Atwater with
number 42. Ronnie Lott was a big.
Wouldn't he?
How old was he when he was playing his last years of playing? How old was he?
I don't know. He was up there, but Ronnie Lott was a Hall of Famer. Some say he's the greatest safety of all time, but I remember Bill Belichick in one of those NFL films things where he was wired for sound. He went up to Ed Reed and he says, "You're the greatest safety I've ever coached against." And he used to be the defensive coordinator for the Giants in the 80s. And of course, the Giants played the 49ers in the 80s. They beat them in an NFC championship game in 86. They wouldn't have when the 86 Giants was a great team. So he's saying Ed Reed was better than Ronnie Lott, essentially, is what Bill Belichick was saying. But you got that Polamalu. I've seen Polamalu win the game by himself in one of those Ravens-Steelers rivalries. Do you remember that game?
Yeah, I seen him flying all over the place. Interceptions and everything. So
remember, I think it might have been Joe Flacco where he hit Flacco and caused the fumble, picked the fumble up. You probably remember that game too.
That's an iconic. That's an iconic moment. Like if they always show that when they show a Troy Polamalu highlight clip. That's always in a.
Oh yeah. So Robert. So it's just been a lifelong thing. We still Bears fans. We still root for them, but there's some ups and downs there. But we got to hang in there.
Those great organizations, huh?
Yeah.
They're consistent. Yeah, I hear you, man. I hear you. So you were telling me, huh?
I know we can't win. Cousin Ed said we can't win with the field goals. What do you think about that? You think that's Pittsburgh football where the field goals make a difference?
Yeah. I was just talking about that game yesterday. 6 field goals for Boswell against the Ravens. And, of course, the Steelers do get the win. They do get the win. The teams are so familiar with each other. You do have the fact that Russell Wilson, they're paying this guy peanuts. They're paying him peanuts. He is in his mid-30s. He's still getting a feel for this offense. He's only got, 4 games as a starter. Remember, they played Justin Fields, which I said that was a bad idea.
Yeah.
Once Russell Wilson gets healthy, I'd say go ahead and put him in there. We know he's more of a capable passer at this point in his career than a guy like a Justin Fields. As far as doing the field goals, they're still going to have to develop more. They've got Mike Williams. They got him in a trade from the Jets. Firemouth is a great player. Pickens is up and coming player. The line's blocking good. I expect them to score more, but they're not going to be a air quote juggernaut. They're not going to be the Chiefs or the Bills offensively. But they've got former Raven Patrick Queen there. They're really well put together. This Steelers team. That being said, they do got to play tomorrow night, and I think Mike Tomlin's like 0-4 or something like that on Thursday Night Football. Though, so you got to be careful, Roy. You may be the Ravens be right back on your heels come Friday. What do you think about that?
Just think about that.
I got the Browns with the upset, man.
He got the Browns.
I forgot they are playing Cleveland, ain't they? You got to watch that Cleveland team. Hey, they beat your Ravens there the other day, Ed. They're just like they're a bugaboo, man.
Because Lamar always got to have a bad game, a game where he forgets how to play. I don't know what'd be wrong with him.
Yeah. That's my next question, Roy or Ed. What is your thought with this Ravens team? What did they need to do to get over the top? They got to the AFC Championship game last year, man.
Yeah, I feel like we should have got a better receiver. Like,
okay,
Deontay Johnson, a cool pickup, but I don't think it's really a receiver that fit Lamar Jackson play style because the way he play is like, it's not planned. Like, if you know what I mean, like it's not like he could drop back. Okay, he looking at his seams. I mean, he looking at his progressions and going here. Nah, it could break down. He could get out the pocket, and so I don't think it's a lot of receivers that, because they might do a great route and they open over here, but he just scrambled this way. So like I feel like he need more like agile receivers, like like Zay Flowers, like Deontay Johnson, cool, but I don't think that was the piece.
Okay.
And I feel like we do need a third down receiver. Like a Mike Williams would have been great. Somebody we could throw the ball up to. Besides, like our tight ends been our only like big threat receivers. Like we ain't had no big receivers.
You mean like a deep threat guy?
Not even deep. I feel like Zay Flowers are a deep threat, but like a
route runner.
It's 3rd and 7, and we at the goal line. Somebody you could just throw the ball up to, hiking and just throw it up to him. I don't think we ever had that for real.
Like a DJ Moore with Chicago.
Yeah, DJ Moore would be great.
Yeah.
What's your prediction on the game, Robert? What's your prediction on the Bears? On the Browns and Steelers tomorrow.
I'll have to look at it. I'll probably say, let's see, Winston's playing. Here's my knock on Tomlin. It's just not all sugar and cupcake around here. You get straight shooting from here from Robert.
Yeah.
I mean, Sports Scope, I just cut it right now. Mike Tomlin's teams have a tendency, guys, to play down to the competition. They've lost when they're favored, okay? They have a tendency to lose. Now, they play it up big when they're underdogs. They were underdogs against the Ravens. I said, he'll play that up. I think
like
the Browns
are underdogs the whole season and sneaking out wins. They 8-2.
Yeah.
Like, with Justin Fields, they was 3-2. And that was
they lost
was
to the Colts there.
Yeah.
They were they should have beat the Colts. I think there's a very good chance.
That was an upset for me. It's sort of like you said, they fall apart at times, and you play down to the other team's level when we're a much better team.
Yes,
we should just not fall out of focus and stay concentrated on the job at hand.
I think they're a good story this year. I like the reemergence of Russell Wilson. His career's gotten some got some life to it. We thought he was washed up. We know he's on his back end. Don't get me wrong. He's on the back end of his career.
Yeah.
You got Arthur Smith. He's former offensive coordinator for the Titans. Did a tremendous job with Ryan Tannehill a few years ago. Not good head coaching material, but then again, he didn't have a great quarterback to deal with in Atlanta. But he does exactly. Him and Russell Wilson work really, really well together. I got a feeling that's going to be a tight game, and Cleveland may very well upset them tomorrow. And then the Ravens, unfortunately, Ed, they got to play the Chargers, and they haven't had their bye week. I think they could be in trouble Sunday, too. What do you think about, or maybe Monday night? What do you think about that Charger-Raven matchup?
That's going to be a big game. That's going to be a big game. That's going to really show us where we at, and what we need to work on. But I got us, of course. Chargers, like defense, Herbert be like the Chargers ain't showed me like they could, the other year, 2 years ago they started 6-0 and then lost their last 5 or something
Yeah.
like that.
But they
Justin
got Harbaugh though. This is gonna be Harbaugh versus Harbaugh.
Yeah, Harbaugh. Yeah, you see, we beat them last time in the Super Bowl.
They beat him in the Super Bowl.
We beat him last time. He got to get his get back, so they're gonna be hungry to get a win for sure. And Justin Herbert, like my second favorite quarterback. I say top 3 because I got Lamar Mahomes and then him. But so I'm gonna I'm gonna be a real fan of that game. But I got us on top still.
Okay, now I mean it's a good point. They'll probably be favored. The Ravens. What's wrong with the Ravens defense? Why are they giving up so many big plays this year, man?
I feel like we lost a lot of key pieces. Well, people that we probably didn't think was key, like Patrick Queen. He was a major piece. That having 2 linebackers that could start on the field at all times, like they could start on any team in the league. Like we had both of them at the same time with Raekwon and him. Then we lost Geno Smith. He just led the league in interceptions last year. So I just I don't think we filled in the spots for real. Besides running back, but in our running game was never our problem. Like, don't get me wrong, Derrick Henry is Derrick Henry. You always gonna get him if you got the chance. But I don't think that was our major problem. We just made something that we already was good at even better, and we focused in on the other stuff.
Yeah, that's. Do you see this team? So you saying they're going to add some defensive pieces? They need to add a couple pieces on that defense. Do you think they may need to get another coordinator, Ed? To kind of been a victim of their own success. Your coordinator is a head coach of Seattle now.
Yeah, we probably that could be a reason too.
Yeah.
Okay. I really think it's the personnel though.
Yeah, okay. It's more of a personnel thing.
And
do you
think everybody gotta find that fit together, the glue. Because I feel like this is the newest team we done had in a minute. Like as far as like a lot of new pieces coming in playing roles people had. Yeah, I feel like this the most
You think maybe they should trade one of those offensive pieces, like a Mark Andrews or somebody?
I was just gonna say Mark Andrews, if anybody, because we got
Likely.
Yeah, we got Isaiah Likely, and you see when Mark hurt, it's like it's no difference, and be younger.
I was telling the audience, I'm really surprised that they've replaced 3 offensive linemen, and they're still very competitive. The Ravens. Often having the best offense in the league, man. Was you surprised by the emergence of Henry being this good at 31 years old with the Ravens?
No, I wasn't. I've been watching Derek since.
Oh, you expected this level of success?
Yeah, because like last year, I don't feel like he played terrible given like the state of the Titans.
Yeah,
and so we made it to the AFC Championship. So like that just winning coaches, we just brought another winner. And I've been watching him since Bama. That's my favorite team. So I've been knew he was going to stay consistent.
Yeah, you were telling me that the other day, Roy or Ed, so you really like that Alabama tie that the Ravens have with all those Alabama players?
Yeah, from Henry to Humphrey. A couple years ago, we had I forget his name. He a new Alabama player though. Probably 2 years ago, he was a rookie. I think Kool-Aid.
They've got so many, it's hard to keep up with them. Ozzie Newsome, your former general manager, he used to play for Alabama.
Yeah, I ain't know that.
Yeah,
I didn't
tied in.
Yeah.
And that's what they do. They just rack up those Alabama players. They like that toughness.
Alabama produced
really good
pros.
Organization.
The top 5 teams.
Yeah, SEC produced pros.
Man, Roquan Smith. Now he's injured. Do you think he's going to be back to play this Charger team? That's a big loss, man, if he don't play.
I mean, I'm hoping he do. If he don't, it's gonna be a little harder to get that W for sure. And then I feel like that'd be another problem with us. Every year somebody get hurt, like somebody. We ain't had a healthy year in a long time.
Yeah.
And we still be a top team, like with the injuries. Like it don't even,
What do you think that? Well, you were saying something earlier about Lamar Jackson. What is the biggest improvement that you've seen, and that's one question. What's the biggest improvement you've seen since he's brought in this new offensive coordinator?
I feel like it's a balance. It's a better balance. And then I feel like he was out of shape last year. Even though he won MVP, he looked quick on his feet this year.
Yeah, he has
See,
lost a
he
lot of
already
weight.
at the
Yeah.
stats he had last year, and the season ain't nowhere near over.
Okay.
But
Okay.
yeah, I
What
feel
does
like
he
he's
need to
getting better
improve
at.
on, Ed?
Wait, what'd you say?
What do you think he needs to improve on, man?
Decision making and take less risk. Like low risk reward. That's what he need to do. Like some plays, like I get you trying to fight and get extra yards, but I think he fumbled way too much. Not even interceptions, but he fumbled way too
I
much
didn't
in
even
big.
notice that. Does he fumble a lot?
Yeah, like season by season, he fumbled a lot. Like
Okay.
he don't throw that many interceptions because he'll run if ain't nobody open. But he fumble in big games, big situations. Like it'll be 3rd and 7, he'll fumble or something like that, or we going for it on 4th down and he'll fumble. But
Yeah.
I feel like that's another thing he improved though.
Yeah.
Robert, I had a friend of mine I called and talked to about the top 5 teams that I think might go to the Super Bowl. And
Who's that?
he said Detroit is one. That's his favorite team is
Yeah.
Detroit. Kansas City, the Bills, Philly, and the Vikings. What is your take on it?
Well,
But he also said number 6, which he said is the Steelers, and I was
he
hoping
will make
that
you
was
feel
supposed to
good.
say we was number 1. But what's your
Yeah,
take on
let me
those?
look at my list and check it twice the way Santa Claus will do it, right?
Yes, sir.
I got it right here, just in case you guys were curious about that. Let me go up here and let's see. Teams that can go. These are teams that are in the Super Bowl bubble. Detroit, they're the first time they've been a favorite in the history of their franchise. They're the favorite to win the Super Bowl. Kansas City, obviously, you got the pass rush there. You got the pressure over the middle. Andy Reid, plus they're going to get Isaiah Pacheco back this week at running back. They could potentially three-peat. That's never been done. They're on the Super Bowl bubble. Buffalo Bills, best record since 1992, guys. They got a 4.5-game lead in the AFC East. They're getting healthy on defense. They're supposed to get their star linebacker back, Matt Milano, back. They're definitely in it. Philadelphia, getting Saquon Barkley. He's just behind Derrick Henry in rushing. Their defense, really well put together. They've hit on 2 draft picks, guys. Keon Mitchell and what's that other guy's name? He had his last name's like Gray Poupon or something. But very good, though. Very good cornerback play. Very good defensive coordinator there. Philadelphia's finally found an identity, 8-2. They're in the Super Bowl bubble. And, of course, yes, Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's in that bubble right now. I don't know if that can change, per se. But you got the pass rush. You got the quarterback play. You haven't had the quarterback play. You had guys like Mason Rudolph and Ben Roethlisberger at the end of their careers.
Yeah.
And, of course, Kenny Pickett was too inconsistent there. So those are the 5 right now. Now, of course, the Ravens, with the right break, the Ravens can get there. I don't know about Minnesota. I don't know about Green Bay, folks. I think the 49ers are too banged up. Minnesota, they got a weak secondary. They give up big plays, too. Get a good coordinator, but they lack personnel, per se. Brian Flores has done wonders with less at Minnesota. Remember that great start they got off to. Darnold's starting to show some old tendencies. Not sure if that's going to last throughout the season. We still have to remains to be seen about Green Bay. But those 5, that's my power 5 this week. That can change. There's always injuries, guys. We don't know what can happen. But let me say this about the Ravens. They have a late bye week. They got to play the Chargers next week. They got to play the Eagles the week after that. They could be 7-6, but they got that late bye week. There's a chance they can run the table after that. Right. A good team like that coming off a bye week have those rested legs and kind of like the Tampa Bay Bucks did with their late bye week when they had Tom Brady in 2020, ran the table, go on and win the Super Bowl. So I'm not putting the Ravens out. I just want to see how they look after that bye week. They got to do something about giving up those big plays. But they're still one of the top run defenses in the league. and they got one of the best offenses in the league. Though they're a team to be reckoned with right now. Everybody else, I'm just not sure about Houston. 49ers, like I said, falling apart. I don't trust Geno Smith with Seattle. I don't trust anybody else in the AFC East. I mean, they're dreadful, and the Titans have 0.5% chance of making the playoffs.
Yeah.
I read that today.
I know you want to wrap it up, Robert, but I got another serious question. We was talking about a duel of running backs.
Yeah.
Which out of the teams, which duel of the two running backs, might put up some numbers?
Are you talking about catching and rushing?
What is that we were talking about? Just running the ball like who was that? Number 30 we got.
Yes, who got the best primary backup running backs?
The best backup running backs?
Yeah, starter and backup together.
Starter and backup.
Best dual running back systems. How about David Montgomery and Jamar Gibbs up in Detroit? Yeah. That may be my best. Detroit's killing teams, guys.
Yeah, they are.
55 points the other night. I think George Mason, and towards the second half of these last 7-8 games, George Mason and Christian McCaffrey, that's a group you're not hearing about. But McCaffrey's healthy now, guys.
Yeah.
That's a good little tandem that nobody's really kept talking about. I like that Mitchell guy in Baltimore, and I like Derrick Henry. He's killing it. But check this out. He's not a running back, but I like the Eagles right now, Saquon and Jalen Hurts. These guys are splitting touchdowns.
Yeah.
Hurts run 2 touchdowns in. Saquon run 2 touchdowns in. If you're playing anytime touchdown on like a FanDuel, that's kind of, even though Hurts is technically not a running back. Let me throw another one. Raheem, since they're healthy now, Devon Achane and Raheem Mostert out of Miami, getting a lot of play there because they've been on a losing streak, but now Tua's healthy. Those guys are kind of coming up in the world as well.
Okay. We got you.
Pulling it off the top of my head, guys.
Okay.
Anything else that you need to plug, Roy? Did you want to plug one of your friends or something or whatever? You got about a minute or so.
Yeah, we had his name Chalky, and he has plenty information on how this might turn out.
Yeah.
As far as we call that the witching hour, when wins become losses and losses become wins.
Hey, that's my favorite. That's NFL Red Zone when you get down to the last 2 minutes of the game.
Yeah.
That's my best Sundays right there, guys. That's a holiday for me.
Oh yeah. So maybe we can match up after the game. We'll check out the game that's going to happen tomorrow between the Browns and the Steelers.
Yeah.
I got us by 24-12.
Okay. Well, they should win. They're favored.
Yeah, I got 24-12 out the door.
24-23 Browns with the upset. Tomlin plays down to the competition again. What do you got, Ed?
27-13 Browns.
Hey, everybody, let's have it for Roy and Ed. Thanks, guys, for coming on.
Yes,
have a good night.
Appreciate you.
See you guys. All right, everybody. I will be back on here tomorrow. Thank you, Chad. We'll be back here on tomorrow, Chad, with John Restano. We'll talk about the Buffalo Bills tomorrow, and we will also get into the Ohio State Indiana game. Normally that's stupid, no, but this is a big game. It's huge. Ohio State Indiana game, and who does he think? John, if you're watching, who do you think should replace Matt Eberflus if he gets replaced? And he probably will be. I just had 2 Chicago natives. They've totally gave up on the Bears. But you can't blame them if the ownership's bad. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night. I'll see you tomorrow. Same time, same place, here on the Real Sports Scope.